Shalom, Koholo Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai Ba'Hashem HaKakodash. Double honors to the elder apostles of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us this truth. And shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word in truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect tabernacle of David. All right, I'm the brother Yahshua. I'm back with the World War III Daily Update. We're going to start right here. Spoke yesterday about Iran's part in World War III, because that's where this thing is going to jump off in earnest, because we know that the Valley of Yehoshaphat, all right, is the main theater. Okay, this is the book of Joel 3. We always show here, okay, this is Joel 3 and 2. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the Valley of Jehoshaphat, all right? And then from there, we go to the NLT translation. And it says, I will gather the armies of the world into the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Now, what word pops out? World. World what? World War III. Okay? The armies of the world. That means World War. Right? And we'll jump down here to 9. Joel 3 and 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. What war? World War III. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come. All the men of war. All nations. I will also gather all nations. For what? For world war. Okay? Where? Down into the Valley of Yehoshaphat. Okay? Now, let's go back to this little, where is it? This little article. This is Haaretz.com. And the title for this piece is America's Wild War, Salakia, America's Wild World War III Plan for Iran and Israel's part in it. When I say Israel, we're talking about the Israelis over there in our land right now. Okay, and it reads, the Pentagon's top strategists, in concert with their Israeli peers, prepared for an almost apocalyptic war in Iran in the 1980s to counter a Soviet invasion. So why have those plans just been declassified and published? Because all things are being made known right now. All right? They've been trying to get this war for a while now, but the proceedings happen in Yahweh's time. Yahweh being the name of the Most High. All right? Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai. All right? So this is Amir Oren. Okay? And January the 20th, which was yesterday. It may sound fantastic now and was probably not really feasible even then, but according to the Pentagon's own Joint Chiefs of Staff, sometime in the mid-'80s, all right, this is when Iraq and Iran were having a war, and Afghanistan and Russia. Russia was in Afghanistan at that time. Okay, and that was a proxy war. That was the Russians against the Americans. The Americans backed Saddam Hussein, and of course the Russians were backing Iran. So it was a proxy war. And this is breaking it down right here. American military planners wanted Israel to take part in a war which would start in Iran and spread to the Eastern Mediterranean, where the Israel Air Force would be tasked with striking Soviet ships and other military units. Okay, so this is World War III. If you can't see right now what Israel, all right, the Israelis, what their plan is, they keep bombing Iran and saying Iran can't have a nuclear missile. Or Iran can. So they're over there bombing their facilities regularly. And this is what is going to start World War III in earnest. All right. As you can see, it's been a long time plan of Babylon the Great to get Israel, or vice versa. Israel to get Babylon the Great. All right. Because really, they're the ones over there calling the shots. All right. This comes not from some scoop-seeking scholar, but from the horse's mouth. David B. Christ, the Joint Chiefs senior historian specializing in Iran and its 43-year conflict with conflict with 8 U.S. administrators, is a Reserve Marine Corps lieutenant colonel with combat deployments in the Middle East and Special Forces background. He has been privy to secret contingency plans, has observed Iran's activities in the Gulf and beyond, and appears to be IDF friendly. Israeli Defense Federation, I believe. Having been associated with pro-Israel Washington Institute. Recently, Christ uploaded to the Joint Chiefs website an unusual, even dramatic presentation with an understated title. U.S. Central Command Campaign Planning Against the Soviet Union, 1979 through 87. It was originally shown to the current commanding general of CENTCOM, Frank McKenzie, a fellow Marine, and his officers. Let's see. All right, what are they saying? Defense collaboration rather than simply assistance between Pentagon and Tel Aviv's Kiryat Defense Headquarters began following the Yom Kippur War, picked up steam after Camp David Accords when Egypt too joined the American orbit and took off momentarily under President Ronald Reagan, with Defense Minister Ariel Sharon signed a strategic cooperation agreement with Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger. This unprecedented document reflected a tug of war between Washington wishing to paint its relationship with Israel as anti-Soviet rather than anti-Arab, and Jerusalem with an opposite policy, fearing of alienating Moscow. So you see the planning going on. This agreement was almost immediately canceled when Israel annexed the Golan Heights. It was revived and upgraded when Yitzhak Shamir as prime minister and Moshe Arens as foreign minister replaced Menachem Begin and Sharon. Washington welcomed them along with Ehud Barak, then head of military intelligence, and his planning colleague Menachem Inan for a relaunch of talks and setting up of mechanisms, protocols, and joint projects, including rare pre-positioning sites for U.S. munitions in Israel for immediate availability in case of emergency. There were apparently at least 6 such sites, numbered 51 through 56, with 54 described as a 500-bed hospital for war casualties. All right, so this goes on and on about how they had plans to use Israel as a first strike against Iran and then further attack Iran's proxy or Russia's proxy. Russia as a proxy, Salak. So you can go and read this. I'm not gonna, it's pretty lengthy. I'm not gonna spend too much time into it. While Israel was earlier drawn into dogfights with Soviet fighters over Egypt and struck transports bringing equipment to Syria, this is nowadays. Because what's going on in Syria right now is a proxy war. Okay? So here's what we know according to the scriptures, all right? So we see this. Let's look at this again, all right? America's wild World War III plan for Iran and Israel's part in it, okay? What do we know according to the scriptures that is going to happen, okay? And this is prophetic. We know how the war is going to start. I mean, it's already started, but what we're seeing right now in Russia or in that area, okay, we're seeing the reformation of the Soviet Union. So not a lot is going. You can already see by Biden's posturing. He said, "Well, if they go in and they just do a soft invasion, then we're not going to do nothing." That's what generally came out of his little presser the other day, that we're not going to do nothing. And as a result, Vladimir is going to get his countries back to reform the Soviet Union, according to the scriptures. Ezekiel 38, all right? So, but what's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will be this, the least. And I got this from the brother Samak down in Miami. He brought out this article, and I'm lambacking off of it to give credit where credit is due. The least of the flock. All right. Therefore, this is Jeremiah 49 and 20. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord, that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. All right? That's the devil, the Edomites. Surely, the least of the flock of Esau shall draw them out. What does that mean? That means the Israelis are going to start this war in earnest. Who's the least of the flock of Teman? Or the least of the flock of Edom? Amalek. That's who's in that land right now. The Amalekites. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. Okay? That's what that is saying. All right? So we know who's going to start the war. And this is telling you, because these plans haven't gone anywhere. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in and look. These plans haven't gone anywhere. They're just a little behind on them. That's all. All right? Same thing is going on now. Who is over there threatening who's threatening Iran right now and bombing them? Well, let's find out. Let's go to something like Secret Files. Let's go to Secret Files and go back a little bit. All right. They've been lagging on their videos, but let's see. Okay. How 52 Israeli jets bomb Gaza overnight. Okay, so that's them bombing in what they're calling the so-called Palestinians. Let's see. What do we got? They kind of pulled the attention away from what's going on over there right now. They're stuck on China right now. Israel strikes Russian air base. That's got to be in Syria. Right here. Iran rattled as Israel repeatedly strikes what? This is 3 weeks ago. Iranian military bases. Okay? So this is part of that same plan. Four weeks. Iran is done. Israel has deployed 2 F-35 fighters to attack Iran's nuclear plants. Okay? And they've been doing this. Israel goes over and says, well, they're building nuclear bombs over here and we have to stop them. Okay? And they're bombing the shit out of Iran, and they have been. All right? They have been. Right here, Israel. Russia allows Iran to shoot down Israeli jets. So this thing has been going on, all right? And it's about to blow up, all right? How do we know that? The scriptures tell us. All right? Let's get Ezekiel real quick. Ezekiel 38. Start right here, 2. 38 and 2. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog. This is talking about Russia. The chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Let's get that. Magog, Russia. Meshech and Tubal, Georgia, Russia. Togarmah, Turkey. Gomer, Turkey, Istanbul. Or Adana. Is that what this is saying? All right. Let's read that again. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog. The land of Magog. The chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Meshech and Tubal. And prophesy against him and say, thus saith the Lord, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, and chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Well, these are Edomites too. The Russians are Edomites. Here's Georgia, Russia, where the Caucasus Mountains are. You get it? And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth. Okay? I'm going to reform the Soviet Union. Then I'm going to bring you out. I'm going to bring thee forth, all thine armies, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. Where's Persia? Persia. The ancient name for, Slovakia. Where is it? Persia right here. Slovakia. Persia right here. Sorry. Right here. Iran. Okay? The ancient name for Iran is Persia. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. With who? With Magog. All right? Now, who's going to start this war? the Amalekites that are in our land right now. Okay, and they're all Edomites, even the Persians. Okay, all right. And if we go back to Jeremiah, what does it say? Jeremiah 49:20. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord that he hath taken against who? The Edomites. What is the counsel that he hath taken against them? I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there. This is the counsel. He's going to plead with them for his people and his heritage, Israel, the true Israelites, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. All right. I know this is confusing because you don't know who is who. All right. We need to start with the greatest case of identity theft that there has ever been. All right. I will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Jehoshaphat. There will I judge them for harming my people. All right. Let's go back here and look at a couple of current events. Let's look at a deep journal. Okay. Sweden deploys all its forces to Russian border. Wow. All right. 14 hours ago, Russia blocks USS Harry Truman. See, I'm getting in order here. Invasion begins. Su-30 fighter jets attack what? Attack the border. So it's going down, as they say. Where's carrier pigeon? It's a carrier. 20 hours. Russia gave the great ultimatum. NATO says NATO sent its monsters. The countdown has began. One day ago, I think we watched that the other day. Ukraine shot dozens of Russian tanks. Russia is about to attack the capital. Let's see what this guy, has he done anything? Nope. Oh, 20 minutes ago. Let's see his little update. See what he says.
This is the world's first reusable. Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, January 21st, 2022, we are continuing our coverage of the ongoing situation between Ukraine and Russia. So first and foremost, it looks like the State Department, Blinken, has ended talks with the Russian foreign minister. Again, those talks took place in Switzerland. So it appears that no major breakthrough has been made. And in fact, it looks like, again, both sides are just very, very far apart, especially in terms of some of the Russian demands. Again, those key demands are that Ukraine and Georgia never be allowed NATO entry, and that the United States, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, roll back the deployment of NATO forces in those post-1997 NATO additions that occurred, and that obviously is significant forces that are in Romania, Poland, and other areas as well, such as Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. So let me back up. I don't want to say significant forces. Obviously, the NATO Ashore system, I'm very sorry. The Aegis Ashore system
Sounds like the voice of confusion today.
that is deployed in Romania, and that is a asset that Vladimir Putin tremendously dislikes that system being located in Romania. But again, we continue to see the rotation of Western NATO organization battalions through Poland, Lithuania, on a fairly regular basis. I mean, obviously, we are not seeing permanent heavy brigades being deployed in Poland or the Baltics. But again, those assets that are deployed in those post 1997 newly formed NATO states is really a tremendous agitation to Vladimir Putin. Now, with that being said, what are some of the news headlines coming out of the area? Well, UA Wire, Kiev, Russia sends more tanks into Donbass. So what they're talking about there is we are seeing a possible uptick in the deployment of Russian assets in eastern Ukraine, specifically the deployment of ammunition, fuel, extra tanks, some long-range rocket systems, and the opening of recruitment sites in eastern Ukraine. So they appear to be strengthening the position of the eastern separatists. And obviously, if there's any sort of high intensity conflict in which Russia is looking at occupying significant areas of Ukraine, obviously those eastern separatists would probably be used in rear area security operations and the possible subduing of large urban areas as the Russian army advances. But again, that is kind of what we're seeing on the ground in terms of that news blurb about eastern Ukraine. U.S. considers flying diplomats' families out of Ukraine, report by the New York Post.
I thought they already did that.
Again, the Independent, United States weighing evacuating diplomats' families from Ukraine. Fox News, Russia's hybrid war against Ukraine has already begun. Yeah, well, yeah. The American conservative, NATO bears some responsibility for the Ukraine crisis. The United Kingdom sends 30 elite soldiers to Ukraine amid fears of war with Russians, coming out of RT, a Russian site. Let's see here. Just the News. Classified info on Russia's Ukraine actions. Frightening, very aggressive, McCall says. Just the News. And yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Not a lot is changing in terms of rhetoric, but again, I think everyone is just watching what the Russians are going to do now. I can't help but look at some of the satellite photographs that are.
That's good enough. All right, so again, with what we know through the scriptures, the former Soviet Union will be reassembled, and that's basically what we're watching. And then the other day, your boy Biden. Let me see if I can pull something up right quick. Biden goes soft on Russia, Ukraine. One day. So he's saying Russia will be held accountable. Biden, what is this? That's one day. He kind of said, well, if they do a soft invasion, then we'll discuss what we're gonna do. He kind of went soft on it. So I'm looking for that. Let's see what he says here.
Hitting the
Slovakia, bear with me. And this is the last update for the week. We'll see what happens after the weekend.
Well, because he's never seen sanctions like the ones I promised will be imposed if he moves, number one.
They don't give a damn about no damn sanctions. This is about war. And he's not going to be backed into a corner in his own country. They said, the West said, Russia, get out of the Ukraine and go home. And Russia comes back and says, we are at home.
Number two,
and that would be NATO. You guys need to get the hell. This is our home. What are you doing over here? We're not over there in the U.S.
Situation where Vladimir Putin is about to. We've had very frank discussions, Vladimir Putin and I, and the idea that NATO is not going to be united, I don't buy. I've spoken to every major NATO leader. We've had the NATO-Russian summit. We've had the OSCE has met, et cetera. And so I think what you're going to see is that Russia will be held accountable if it invades. And it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, et cetera. But if they actually do what they're capable of doing with the force amassed on the border, it is going to be a disaster for Russia.
Now, if you analyze what he said, he gave himself some wiggle room. Well, if they do a small little thing, then we'll figure out what we're going to do. You ain't going to do nothing. Vladimir is about to bum rush the show and reassemble the Soviet Union according to the scriptures. All right? The Most High, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, is the one conducting the whole theater. All right? So we will see the reformation of the Soviet Union, and you're not going to do anything like you just said right here. We're going to play that again. He's going, well, it depends on what they do. If they come in soft, then we'll just discuss it. It doesn't matter if they come in hard. What are you going to do? You're going to start dropping nukes? That doesn't happen right away. All right, the nukes don't come until the least of the flock draws them out. All right, so we already know the scenario. We already know the script. There's a script in a play. It's called the scriptures. All right.
Minor incursion, and then we end up having a fight.
That was it right there. Let me bring it back. Right here. If they do a minor incursion, then we'll figure out what to do.
And it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion, and then we end up having a fight about what to do and not do, et cetera. But if they actually...
That's what I was looking for. Okay. No, you're not going to do anything. Okay. What are you doing over there in the first place? That's Vladimir's territory, and you're forcing him to take action. All right. And we'll get this one, and then we'll go ahead and close it out. All right. This is, what is it? Proverbs 21. Proverbs 21:1. Here's what's going on. The king's heart, and that's the king. It's the king of Babylon right here. All right. And this guy, Vladimir Putin, he's the king of the north, which is Russia. The king of Babylon, the king of the north. Xi Jinping, he's the king of China. These are the kings, all right? Now, whatever you're doing, here's what you're doing. The king's heart, and this word heart is the Hebrew word lob, which means your mind. So the king's mind is in the hand of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua is in the hand of God. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. And just as God, Yahweh, hardened Pharaoh's heart, meaning his mind, that's what he's doing right now. He's hardening the mind of every king and forcing them into a situation that he's going to surround them and ambush them. All right? So that's enough for today. We hope that the elect were edified. And with that, we can say, till next week, shalom.